Mike Miller, Vice President of Billing Systems, Telecommunications Industry. Problem: the need to cut billing costs, improve quality, and boost low employee satisfaction. Intervention: created a culture of openness and candor to increase problem-solving capacity. Results: billing costs were reduced by 30%, quality was improved by 25%, and employee satisfaction rose by 20%. Effective leaders know the importance of having people speak up around tough issues. Just ask Mike Miller.
I was charged with a task that at the time seemed nearly impossible. We're given specific goals to cut billing costs, reduce headcount, improve quality while simultaneously increase employee morale. As I said, this seemed almost impossible to achieve. When you consider the existing culture of silence where people were afraid to speak up because of fear of reprisal, it's no surprise that the business results we had at the time were consistently over budget, consistently past deadline on key projects. The paramount goal became to get people to speak up so we could solve problems, solve them early.
But most leaders underestimate just how hard it is to get folks to speak up, especially when it matters most.
One of the things I've seen in my career is an almost naive belief that leaders have that if they stand up in front of a room full of people and tell everyone it's safe to speak up, people eventually do it. In my experience, nothing could be further from the truth. It's not enough to stand up in front of employees and announce one day the importance of honesty and candor. It's not enough to give a pep talk about the value of sharing their opinions. Motivating people to speak their minds is absolutely necessary, but motivation alone is just not sufficient.
Instead of focusing solely on motivation, Miller and his team invested in skill building. He carefully employed the tenets of deliberate practice to ensure that his people mastered the skills they needed to speak up effectively.
So what we did was we identified specific behaviors we were looking for. We set up training where people could practice those behaviors in a safe and a supportive environment. We started with a few skills in the first three months or so, and we enabled people to practice that. We spaced it out so that they'd have time to practice in between the formal training sessions. Then we started getting into the next set of behaviors. In doing that, we were able to create an overlapping situation where they work on 3 behaviors for the first few months, and then at the tail end of that start 3 new ones. That created a natural progression of both training and practice that led to a rapid adoption of the new behaviors. During the practice session itself, we structured them so that people got feedback on the spot, what was working well and areas that needed improvement. That way people could make corrections pretty quickly and move on. Master the skills, move on. We put people in actual learning networks with coaches and with other folks in the formal training environment. And so when they ran into problems, they had someone there who could help provide some feedback and some coaching in a safe and supportive way. Then they could take that feedback, improve their skills, and move on. By doing this, we actually turned those setbacks into learning points rather than points of discouragement.
When this type of consistent and effective skill building is balanced with a handful of other sources of influence, the results can be profound and rapid.
It didn't take too long before we found people started speaking up. And they did it to their superiors, even the ones that they were shying away from in the past. They did it in an extremely productive way. And when that started to happen, business results quickly followed. We started being able to see results in business metrics in 6 to 9 months. We started measuring substantial improvements in 9 to 12 months, and were able to reach our goals. We actually cut billing costs by 30%, a thing that had not been done in any time before in the company. We started hitting virtually all of our release schedules and hitting 95% of those on time. We improved quality by measured 25%. And the almost unheard of, while all this was going on, was we improved employee satisfaction by 20%.
So when it comes to influencing change in your organization, do like Mike Miller does and invest in building skills. After all, no amount of motivation will be helpful until people know how to change.